Hey everyone, welcome back to the 6th episode of my Music by the Month recap series. It is time again for another one of these recap videos that I'm posting alongside the release of every single song from my Music by the Month project. So in this one, it's the end of end of June, and I'm going to be going over the project of the song I released this month and just sort of give some of the thoughts I had behind producing it. So yeah, let's get straight into the project. So this video is probably going to be a bit shorter just because the actual piece is quite simple and quite repetitive, but that's just part of sort of the narrative I have going and just sort of the theme with this. So as always with these here, I tend to have a theme and a storyline that I want to sort of have with each piece. And this one's carrying on from the last one. So far the story's sort of gone through with this character sort of building the rocket ship and sort of launching it. And the last two pieces were sort of based around that idea. And now at this point it's sort of slowed down a bit, and this character's sort of just drifting through space, just waiting on this journey, it's sort of in the time when there's not that much to do, and it's just really just waiting for them to get to their location, which is why I represent that in the piece as being very repetitive and sort of quite ambient. So it's sort of based around just this one progression that loops throughout the whole thing, and it's quite a simple chord progression, where it's just a bunch of 7 chords, but then there's this pedal tone up the top that sort of holds it together, and it sort of has this harmony that has this very bittersweet quality to it that you might get on sort of a very lonely journey in this rocket ship in space. And I've sort of looped that over and over again and added different elements on to sort of compare how different ideas can sort of fit in with the main idea. So I'll play a little bit just here. Yeah. So it's a very cold sound almost, with sort of that piano, and there is a bit of a melody going on sort of here. It's not just the chords, and it sort of works with the background synths to sort of create one whole sound. Yeah, another sort of notable bit at just the simple groove here is sort of the ticking percussion I have in the background. And it ticks sort of every second, almost like a clock, sort of just to emphasize the very slow passing of the time throughout the whole thing, and it carries on throughout the whole piece. So with sort of the piece, it doesn't really go very far in terms of sort of big changes or progressions or things like that. It doesn't really diverge from this idea. It's more of sort of an additive composition where new ideas are built on top of the existing one, which I sort of think sort of fits in with the idea and the theme of what I'm sort of going for. I added some sort of just percussion sounds that sort of very reverby and sort of echo around, just some sort of to add a bit of like mystery and confusion, just so that it's sort of a little bit unsettling. Yeah. As well as that, some of the other sound effects I added in were these, I don't really know what you'd call them, but I used them in an earlier composition. It was the February one, and it's sort of to link just some of those elements together, but it'll sort of make sense once the later compositions come out. I don't want to reveal too much so far. And then there's sort of these more defined melodies that sort of come in and out, especially around this bit here, and I'll just play it a little bit. You can hear lots of this sort of sound effects I've added just to sort of add a lot of character and ambience. So it's yeah, very sort of simple melody, but it sort of just stays within the groove and sort of just moves around there within this one idea. Moving on from that, it's a similar thing, but I sort of wanted it to have a very big grand finish where sort of everything just comes together. So I sort of added in these strings and this almost orchestral section here that sort of builds up the harmonies and just the layers of all the string sounds, so it sort of comes together with this one big finish. And I sort of wanted that to sort of focus more on maybe the sadder, just more melancholy side of this situation of being sort of stuck in a spaceship through space sort of by yourself. So it's a very it's sort of, I wanted it to be very notable within the piece, but still following the same melody so that it's sort of like connecting the whole piece together. I sort of want the main melody and idea to not change, but to just be built upon. And I'll play it here. So it's a lot more powerful, solid sound compared to very thin, sort of cold aesthetic at the start, but it's still very much the same idea that's just been built upon. So in terms of the actual composition, it's very simple, as I sort of just went over before, and I've basically covered it other than a lot of the character, which comes from the sound effects and sort of just the design effects of a lot of the sounds, such as later on there's the heartbeat, which sort of acts like a kick drum coming through, which is actually throughout the whole piece, except a lot of it's been filtered off, so it sort of slowly builds up. Same with the ambient sort of rain sound you might have heard, which also is throughout the whole piece, but then slowly just builds up. And I think just those elements like that just are very subtle, but they do add a lot to the character and the aesthetic of the music. Another thing I wanted to note was the piano that comes in at the end, because it's a very powerful, strong, dark sound that is sort of the main difference between the first section and the second section, and I think it really helps to add to the aesthetic that I wanted of this last section. Yeah, so I just wanted to end off the composition. It sort of ends on this last really long held note, and then it sort of fades out, as if it could just sort of keep carrying on. It's almost up to the listener's interpretation how it sort of would carry on from there. But until the next piece is released, then I guess we won't really know how it'll carry on from here, so we'll have to wait for that. But I think that's pretty much it for this piece here. It's a much shorter video for this month, but it is a simpler piece, as I said before. And yeah, so I guess I'll be back with the July recap in 1 month from now.